Hello and welcome to the Dragovan Channel. I'm Dragobar,
I'm Caravan.
and we raid naked.
Together.
Now, our virgin episode is going to be about what we're supposed to do when we first hit A5. Your XP bar just vanished, and now you want to kill a dragon. What do you have to do?
Well, the first thing you need to do is figure out how much gear you have and what your item level is, along with figure out how many justice points you have and if you have any achievements for the heroic mode dungeons.
Now, often when you first start out, you'll have next to nothing. You'll have pretty much all greens and a couple of blues from dungeon grinding and questing. Now, this will get you decently far. You'll be able to start out probably with normal mode dungeons. You're going to want to continue to grind these out and get as much gear as possible.
So, to start off, let's figure out how you can actually check your item level. And as we go into game, we would check by opening up our character pane, making sure that this character information is open, and then look under the general tab at item level. Your item level, if it is high enough to get into the dungeon, should be around 333 to start doing heroic dungeons.
Now, generally, once you're able to start doing heroic dungeons, you're going to want to. Now, a couple of things that you could do to speed up the process is 1. Join a leveling or casualing guild. Often these guilds will have other members who are trying to do the same thing that you are, and having extra people queuing up in a party at the same time will really speed up the process.
Plus, your leveling guild, or even if you do get into a low-level raiding guild, they will allow you to probably get some extra gear because sometimes people will find extra PoEs that they don't need and put them in the guild bank, or they'll be nice and they'll make you some extra items, or you'll be able to find something that they just give you. Potions, items, gold, etc.
Yeah, also guilds will help you out quite a bit in the future. When you start out by dungeon grinding or doing anything like that, you start making a name for yourself amongst the end-tier content of players. And generally, once your name gets out there and people start to get to know who you are, you'll be more accepted into pug groups or raiding groups that you try to get into.
Okay, so to start grinding dungeons, you'll need to first be able. You're going to need to first join the queues, and to join the queues, you'll need to first go to the dungeon finder, look up what is the thing, and it's most likely going to be random cataclysm heroics. And at that point, you're probably going to get valor points for completing the instance, and you're also going to get justice points just for killing bosses. It should be around 70 justice points per boss.
Now, these justice points are very, very helpful. Although they may seem just a random currency that you get just by doing what you need to do, these justice points and valor points are able to help get you better gear later on. As you start collecting more and acquiring a lot more points, the more gear becomes available to you, and therefore the more dungeons are available to you, and basically it's just an upward hill from there, or a downward hill.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So, after you do get some justice points, you're going to want to start spending those points. And spending those points, there's a couple strategies that people have discovered. When you do start to get enough justice points, you'll notice that you can actually buy heroic level gear of the content that you're on, or you can buy last tier's rating gear if you're in the next tier of content through an expansion. These justice points are definitely helpful for picking up off pieces. Like, let's say I'm missing a pair of shoulders or a pair of something, and I can find the shoulders in the vendor and buy them. It's better than waiting for you to collect that one piece. It's definitely better to wait. God damn, I lost my train of thought. It's
That
better.
happens often to you, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's better sometimes to wait until you find which piece you'll need, because sometimes the dungeons you'll need like 4 or 5 pieces, and if you just first spend your justice points as soon as you get it, yeah, you get the upgrade quicker, but then let's say you just buy a hat, and then all of a sudden a hat drops, you wasted a lot of justice points when you could have easily just gotten the hat from the heroic. So saving your justice points until you get to the cap is usually a nice strategy.
Also, one good thing that Blizzard has implemented is if you just buy a piece, you're able to refund it for the full amount of justice if you haven't gemmed it or enchanted it within 24 hours of you buying the piece.
So it's definitely a good idea to make sure that you always have that available for you.
Now, after you've done normal dungeons quite a bit and you started up heroics, you're gonna want to keep grinding. It's essentially the same exact strategy from normal dungeons. It's just going into the next tier. Now, a good thing to remember while going into it is that the bosses have become harder. They have changed quite a bit, and you're going to need to learn a few new strategies.
Though in Mists of Pandaria, Blizzard has stated that they want the bosses to be easier initially. So they won't be as easy as they were in the past or at the end of the expansion, but they'll probably be a little bit easier than they were during Cataclysm. Alright, so the biggest thing you're going to want to do, if you're in a nice leveling guild, or if you're in a nice pre-rating guild, you're going to want to, if you're a DPS, join in a queue with a tank or a healer. Because as a DPS, your queue can be anywhere from 7 to 35 to 75 minute queues. They can take forever. So joining with a friend or a healer or tank who will enjoy having a strong DPS with them that knows what to do is always advantageous. I actually leveled up one of my characters using nothing but healer and tank queues. We just did it. It was just me as a healer plus a tank and another DPS, and we just kept going and going and going. It was very quick.
Yeah, literally, with me, I took my first healer to 85, and it took me 1 day to gear up all the way through 3 tiers of content. So, it can be very quick as a tank or healer.
So, there's also a big thing that they have using the justice points. As you, here, let me go into the game. As you, start playing in, each tier, once the next tier comes out, the justice points that you have and all the Valor points turn into justice points. So every one of your Valor points will turn into justice points, making all that gear turn over. It sounds like it's kind of useless, but it'll make it so that you can accumulate a lot of justice points right before, and you're allowed to then buy the raiding content with pure justice points.
Now, generally Blizzard is pretty good about telling you exactly when they're going to do it. Often they'll release the data that they're going to change this about 2 to 4 weeks before the actual tier releases. If you follow websites like MMO Champion and even just going on to battle.net, they'll be able to show you, you'll be able to see, and you'll have a heads up of when, so you can start saving ahead of time.
Also, what's interesting is as the expansion continues, Blizzard has started to add different heroics along with it. Like in this expansion, Cataclysm, they had the initial heroics that you got before raiding, and they offered the Zol, Gurub, and Zolaman heroics, which gave you half tier right in between the first tier of raiding. And then now with the latest tier, they have heroics that literally give you 378 gear. And those are the quickest way to gear up, and it helps you get up to the last tier of the content for the expansion a heck of a lot quicker than you could do normally.
Now, once you're done with dungeons and you have everything that you can get out of them, it's time to start raiding. There are a couple ways that you can start raiding. Ever since this most recent patch dropped, the easiest way to start raiding is to do looking for raid.
You're going to want to as soon as you get the gear for looking for raids using the dungeon tool, you're going to want to keep grinding them out every single week. Do your until you get a permanent raiding guild. You're going to want to grind out your looking for raids every week. And the cool thing about looking for raid is if a friend of yours is doing it, or if you want a friend's help or something like that, even if they've already done the looking for raid that week, they can still join you. They just won't be able to roll on any of the loot. And you can only roll on the loot the first time you enter into the instance for the week. Once you're done with looking for raids, you're going to want to continue with normal modes. Now, with normal modes, you can either find a pug, which is a pickup group, and those groups are usually a one-time deal. You'll join a pug and you'll try to do the content as best as you can. But if you can't complete the raid, or if you only get so far and everyone quits, you're probably never going to see those guys again unless you join another pug with the same people. Or you might find a permanent raiding group, or it's just all about what you can find.
Now, a good strategy for applying for a pug is if you just start out raiding, you won't have the achievements that they're asking for. what you're going to want to do is prove to them that you have the eye level to do it, like more than enough eye level, and tell them that you know the fights. It's kind of hard to prove to them, so you're not guaranteed a spot unless you have the achievements, but it is helpful to actually know the fights and to be able to give him a brief overview that you do know them.
And the quicker you can respond with your item level, your experience, and the quicker you can respond with all that, it kind of proves to them that you know exactly what you have. Like if you take a few seconds to look up your item level, or if all of those shenanigans happen, it might prove to them that you don't really know what your item level is, and you want to be able to outright say, hey, this is what I have, this is who I am, and this is what my spec is. This is what my role will be, and I know most of the fights up to this point.
Actually, what I did at one point was, because I wasn't that quick at typing when I first started playing WoW, I actually made a macro with my eye level and experience, and I would just spam that to the people who were advertising for pugs. This is before Looking for Raid came out, so there were a lot more pugs around.
Ever since Looking for Raid came out, though, pugs have sort of died out. Nobody wants to do a pug when you can easily just join a queue for an easier version and get the same content done, even though you don't get as good of gear.
Yeah, most of the time people going for Looking for Raid are, one, just trying to gear up quickly without having to actually join a pug or anything, or just trying to see the content. So you will have people who don't really know the fights, but at Looking for Raid's level, you could pretty much just go in there and zerg everything.
It is pretty simple. Since we are not actually heroic raiders, we're actually only normal mode raiders, we can't give a exact detail of how you start heroic modes, but we can explain that usually they start with your normal mode groups, and you just slowly work your way into heroics, unless you guys are already heroic modes and just keep zerging. You don't really need to watch this video.
Yeah, but anyways, if you do want to try to get into a heroic mode guild, you have to remember that they are often just 25-man guilds. 25-man, because you have so many people that can join, you're able to fill out every spot, and you won't have to leave a class out, so that means that you won't be missing any buffs, and pretty much everything is a lot easier in 25-man. So if your computer can't handle it, just try to stick to 10-mans. Now, another thing to note is that these heroic guilds often require long written applications on independent websites apart from WoW. So, if you want to become a heroic raider, there is a lot of dedication that you have to put into it. You have to know your class inside and out, and you have to be able to know the theories of fights, literally to a fine point, because often you'll go into an expansion, or into a fight, now with a new dungeon finder, they'll explain what each boss can do, but they won't give you a strategy. You have to be able to figure that out on your own and be able to work with 24 other people.
What's interesting about 25-mans versus 10-mans is that even though 25-mans have more people and it takes a little bit more dedication, they're a little bit more forgiving, especially in normal modes. In normal modes, 25-men are very forgiving, because if you have 1 or 2 DPS down, the other ones can try to cover for it. If you have a healer down, you still have 5 more healers to go. In 10-mans, if you have one person die, it can be pretty detrimental. And if you use up your battle res early on a really hard fight that you guys aren't used to yet, it can really just cause a wipe immediately. 10-man is a lot less forgiving than 25-man. So if you have a computer that can handle it and you just want to start raiding, I would recommend trying to find a 25-man guild.
Alright, well that about covers what we're going over today in our first ever episode. Please follow us, continue to watch for episodes. We'll try to get one out every week. No promises, but
we'll try. We're also going to attempt to give an episode based around our characters, who we are, what some of our experiences are, and we're going to try to lighten the mood later. We are a little bit static right now. So, thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed.
See you guys later.